and gentlemen, please be upstanding for His Worship the Mayor.
Before we start the meeting, right members, if you want to remove the jackets. Croeso I cyfarfod llawen ac Cyngor. Welcome to full council on Wednesday, 22nd of May. Please note that this meeting will be recorded for subsequent broadcast via the authority's internet site. The images and sound recording may also be used for training purposes within the authority. The public seat area will be in view of the camera, and by entering the chamber and using the public seating area, members of the public are consenting to be filmed until the possible use of these images and sound recordings be outlined above. We go on to apologies for absence.
Councillor Chris Barry.
Item number 2, any declarations of interest? Thank you very much. Go on to item number 3, the minutes of the meetings. Item from number 3 to 3F. We're going to lead it to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I move the accuracy of the minutes, could I make a request for an amendment to the minutes? Could I please have it noted that in the minutes that I asked the planning officers if they recognise the point that Councillor Hughes raised is a material planning issue, and the officer confirmed that if highway safety is the issue, then highway safety is a material planning issue.
Is that seconded?
Yeah, I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.
So I'm sorry. Minute 1042. The last paragraph there, it refers to a meeting that took place between the chair and the vice chair after the old message was over. As my recollection is that both the chairman and the vice chair did undertake that they would report back to the audit committee, the next audit committee meeting, which isn't reflected in the minutes there.
What is the amendment?
Oh, I'm sorry, just put a line in there to say that where it says that they met, the chair and vice chair of audit undertook to report back to the audit committee, the next audit committee meeting. That was my recollection of the meeting.
Is that amendment seconded?
There's no further amendments. I move the accuracy of the minutes, Mr. Mayor.
And I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Can we vote on that, please? Thank you, members. That's been carried. Thank you very much. We go on to item number 4, notes of motion. There's Councillor Carter to take us.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Before I go into the notice of motion, can I just have 30 seconds of your time? As I wasn't here last week, I just want to offer my congratulations to Howard on his mayoralship this year, and also to Malcolm on the deputy. All right. Okay, the notice of motion which we've got here in front of us, I'll read it out. Community groups, organisations provide so much for the residents of the county borough of Merthyr Tydfil. These provide community facilities and much needed opportunities. Without these, a massive void would be in place. These groups are community supported and indeed, in a lot of circumstances, are only able to survive from funding that elected members allocate. We cannot let these groups, organisations suffer, or potentially in a great deal of cases cease to exist, by not giving our support and financial assistance. With the precarious state of funding from Van from 2019-2020, I hereby move that this council agrees to make provisions and move the sum of £55,000 into a community chest from either the large or intermediate fund. However, should such funding not be in place to reallocate, then I move that this council finds the money from existing budgets to facilitate this motion. Councillors will then be able to continue to support community groups, organisations, as we cannot wait for further information from Van at this crucial time. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Someone second on motion? Members, any questions? Questions? Any comments? Councillor Barry?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I welcome Councillor Carter raising the issue of community groups. They are so important to this borough, but the council acknowledges the fantastic work that the community groups do, sporting clubs, etc., within the borough. The current status of the Fran is a sensitive one. There's being dealt with by our legal team, and information will come to this council at the appropriate time. We've been fortunate in previous years to have received money from both Merthyr and Fran to support outside groups. Those groups have been asked to ensure that they are sustainable and that they work to build constitutions where they could apply for other monetary support, such as the Big Lottery Fund, Churches of Wales, etc., and not reliant on Merthyr and Fran funds, as they were never a guarantee. There was never a guarantee that they would always be available. Everyone in this chamber knows the current position, having come through the budget rounds of 18-19, and currently working on the initial budget ratios for 2021, which are considerable, 8.1 million deficit. 55,000 into community pot at this time, questionable. We do have some Merthyr funds in some of the wards. There's a full allocation of the large and intermediate funds at present. And in summary, community groups will need to explore other funding streams, and there is a budget deficit of 8.1 million for 2021. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any other comments? Councillor Lewis?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to put on record how disappointing it was to hear that the allocation of funds for the small grant from Van is not coming through for this financial year. But it was only until we submitted an application to the relevant department, the regeneration department, that it became aware that funds were not forthcoming. It's quite disappointing. We then, Harvey, Brent and myself, had to go back to that organisation in question and explain to them that the funds were not forthcoming. It would have been far better for all parties if that communication had come through prior to this financial year, so we were all made aware at the appropriate time, and therefore not disappoint the organisation in question.
Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with that statement, that it would have been helpful to all members if we'd known about this. We didn't have the email until sometime in April, 22nd of April, was it? Which was, you know, it came as quite honestly, a bit of a surprise, I think, to a number of members. This fund has been in existence for somewhere in the region the last 9 to 10 years. We've been helping a whole host of community organisations and individuals over the years in the 11 wards, and we are very interested to find out when this funding stream will be returning.
Councillor Carter.
If I speak now, would anybody else be allowed to speak after, or?
Sorry, Councillor Jacob, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I fully agree with Councillor Carter in terms of making sure that we've got money available for our community groups within our wards across the county borough. However, this is not the fault of the council. This is because it's not coming through from Fossa Fran. So, considering the deficit we've got as a local authority, what I'll be doing personally for my ward in the meantime is looking at alternative means of funding to support community groups. So you've got Voluntary Action Merthyr Tydfil as our umbrella organisation for the voluntary sector. You've got opportunities for funding through the Community Chest Wales, the Young People's Fund of Merthyr Tydfil, Awards for All, Tesco's Bags for Help scheme, Arts Council and the Cooperative Local Community Fund are just a few that I've accessed in previous years to help community groups. So if anybody needs some advice on where to go for those fundings, I'm happy to direct you or to put you in the direction of Voluntary Action Merthyr Tydfil as an interim until this issue is resolved.
Alan was coming here and speak.
Thanks very much. To answer Councillor Jones's observations, as soon as it became apparent that the second payment, which has slightly been erratic over the last year, the way payment has come in, as soon as it was apparent that the account had slipped into a second payment of deficit, to be prudent, we issued immediate advice to councillors. I'd like to reiterate my department's commitment to helping any voluntary groups, and similar to Councillor Jago, if there are any groups that you know have a specific need, then please direct them to the external funding team.
Councillor Rogers.
So it's not actually finished, really, is it? It's not. Am I correct there?
Yes, you are correct. There's nothing. We have no evidence to say that we will receive no further payment at this point in time. The payment is late, so has not been received because there aren't funds available because we're waiting on the subsequent payments. Then obviously it was prudent to not allocate any further funding at this time.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree with all the comments that's been raised. They're all valid. Just one comment from myself. In previous years, we've been encouraged to spend wisely so that local groups in our community don't suffer. So I would be I would imagine that every ward here, with the exception of Cyfarthfa, who had special circumstances with the by-election, they could carry it over. Every ward here pushed to spend their money by the end of the financial year. If this problem was not, if this problem was highlighted sooner, I'm sure a lot of the councillors would have held back some of the money and been a little bit more prudent with it.
Leader.
Yeah. Just first of all, I welcome what Councillor Carter has done in raising this issue. There are a number of places where they have additional funds, those places where they got wind, the windmills and all that sort of support, and it's done tremendous work. and everybody's benefited. Each councillor benefits from what the money they get from it. I, like others, regret the position we're in, because it's been such a bonus. But I've got to say, myself and the leader of the Labour group sit on the panel, and lots of hard work goes into deciding where it goes, how much money goes, lots of consultation and collaboration with Alan and his team. And I think we shouldn't forget the fact that how well that's gone, and I want to thank Alan and his team for assisting us through that, and I'm sure Darren will say the same. I'm hopeful, like Tony, that maybe there'll be a sunny end to this. We've got to remain hopeful, but I do thank Councillor Carter for raising it. I think the debate has been useful and helpful, and let's hope that we can get in a better position. But to echo Councillor Barry, we've got that deficit and there isn't a budget anywhere else for it. So I would support what Councillor Jago said by looking for alternative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Coming back on what Councillor Jago said, is it possible at all to get like a list of allocated services that do provide additional funding sent out to all councillors, so then we've got an idea then with a sort of summary of what they actually cover, to give us an idea, instead of having to obviously run to external services as well, that we can sort of just come up with an idea there and then to say we can direct you year and year straight away. Thank you.
Yeah, we can provide you with the compendium of what's currently available.
Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I think it could be a good idea as well, you know, because the only people suffering here are the residents of Merthyr Tydfil, you know, by not having this money, and maybe a letter from the council, from the members of the council, to the current operators of the open cast site, you know, to say about our frustration, and the only people you're hurting at the moment are the people of Merthyr Tydfil.
Councillor Carter, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, a couple of points which were brought up, and the trouble is I'm going to be asking a question in a comment, because with regards to...
It's comments only.
I know, but with regards to the reallocation of funds from intermediate and the larger funds, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Andrew covered that in his speech. Was there no money there, you said, yeah? Okay, great, that's fine. Going back then to what Sherelle has said with regards to the community fund, I don't think the cooperative fund is no longer available, Sherelle, to be honest. But my concern with the community funds, and I've had a little bit of experience, quite a lot of experience of trying to get money from community funds. Competition for these funds is very fierce, and my concern would be it'd be very difficult for local organisations, especially the organisations we tend to support, i.e. football teams, old age people groups, etc. And these have funds for helping towards pitch fees and helping on day trips and outings and coaches and Christmas lunches and this sort of things. And I know if you put that on an application for a community fund, you'd have no chance in hell of getting any money from it. So I'm a little bit concerned the way the council is going with this, the way the independent groups' thoughts are with this. But it's not up to me to justify it. They would have to justify it themselves to their communities and their organisations why they couldn't support. I'm not saying they can't yet, the vote may be different, but if they couldn't support allocating £55,000 from other budgets, when, for example, miraculously £100,000 was found for grass cutting last year. That's my point, and I will finish on that. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, members, just been told we do vote, we'll vote on the motion. Thank you very much. cleared it. Who cleared it? That's cleared, right. We'll move on to item number 5, the annual audit letter. And it's Andrew to speak on this.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The annual audit letter from the Director of Financial Audit, Wales Audit Office, Derwin Owen, is attached to the appendix to the report. The letter summarises finance and resource usage, the arrangements in place for economy, efficiency and effectiveness of our usage, financial challenges, certification of grants and returns. The letter considers the next 3 years of the medium-term financial plan. The letter starkly points out the position of the authority finds itself in. The letter of the 7th of April was presented to the Audit Committee on the 29th of April, attended by Helen Goddard and Sarah Jane Byrne of Finance and Performance from Wales Audit Office respectively. The message from Helen was clear. The corporate management team, cabinet and members need to work together. The emphasis was placed on members working together quite clearly. The recommendations are 2.1 to 2.3, 2.1. The annual audit letter 1718 be noted. 2.2. The collective responsibility of all officers and elected members in addressing the financial challenges be accepted. And 2.3. The scheduling of member workshops to address the projected budget deficits be supported. I move, Mr Mayor.
I second and reserve the right to speak.
Any questions, members? Sorry. Councillor Chaplin.
Yeah, on Environmental Health Services found that the Council's environmental health services resources had reduced, and it cannot be demonstrated that it is delivering its statutory health services. My question is to the Cabinet Member, what, if any, recovery plans have been put in place to resolve this matter?
I met with the Wales Audit Office. They brought out a report of delivering this environmental service with less money. I don't think that report has yet come back to the council to see if we're doing anything not in the statutory framework. So I think we'll have to wait on the report, David, and that report comes back through. We'll bring it to council. I think Alan wants to come in on that as well.
We've actually disputed the findings, the report. The report, when it came in, was riddled with factual inaccuracies. The Environmental Health Service, as far as professional officers is concerned, we've protected for the last 3 years, and the staff complement of qualified environmental health officers has increased by 1, so we are actually challenging those findings.
Councillor Jones.
To follow that, Mr Mayor, have they given you any indication when the actual report is going to be sent to you?
Not at this time, no. We're actually waiting for that confirmation.
Councillor Amos.
I just got a question for Councillor Barry. He mentioned in his contribution there that members should have a collective responsibility. Could you point me to where it says that in the audit letter?
It was the point that was made by Helen Goddard in the meeting, the audit meeting of the 29th of April, if you recall. It's one of the main areas they are concerned about, and she went at lengths to mention that to us.
Ms Lewis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Alan, on a point of accuracy, when you said that the report is riddled with inaccuracies, are you simply referring to the bit that highlights environmental health or other aspects of the report?
There was a specific report. Wales Audit Office conducted an exercise with environmental health throughout Wales. So this was last year. All authorities had the the same audit. The report that was produced from that audit, we disputed, and that was the report that was riddled with inaccuracies. So to see that comment translating to actually this report, where we hadn't actually accepted the recommendations of the audit office, that's what we're challenging.
Members, any comments? Councillor Roberts.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I go along with the comment really made by WAO, you know, about members working together. This is something that we have been doing within the Labour group. We have met with the leader and the deputy leader, and Councillor Amos and Rogers on several occasions, more recently looking at the budget setting. So this practice is taking shape, and it is it is happening. If members refer to page 40 of the agenda, specifically the fourth paragraph of the MTFP for 2019-20 to 22-23, to reflect a statement given by the Wales Audit Office in their annual letter, I would like to amend recommendation 2.2, please, Mr. Mayor, on page 33, to read as follows. The collective input of the Council's corporate management team, Cabinet and elected members in addressing the financial challenges be accepted. I think that wording would be more apt as it is the wording from the WAO letter. Thank you.
I second that, Mr. Mayor.
Any comments, questions on the amendment?
I'll accept that and we'll change it as part of the report, Mr. Mayor.
Can we vote on the amendment, please?
It's been accepted that that is what the wording should say, so they just need to vote on the recommendation now with the amended
Can we vote
wording.
on it? Sorry, Leader.
Okay, I just want to draw a line in the sand, really, in relation to... Oh, I beg your pardon, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just some comments on the report. The annual audit letter for 2017-18 must rank as one of the most damning external regulatory reports this authority has seen. The content of the report is stark and cannot be ignored. Quite clearly, the excessive use of general reserves by the independent administration in 2017-18 to plug the in-year deficit was reckless, irresponsible, and as stated in the report, unsustainable. Financial reserves is the Council's rainy day fund and should only be used in exceptional circumstances and for unexpected expenditure. We are now at the stage where reserves are hovering precariously above the minimum level as required and as stated in our own policy. Should there be any additional financial pressures during this financial year, it leaves this authority in a deeply worrying and vulnerable financial position.
The Leader.
Yeah. Firstly, I wasn't going to talk about the reserves dynamic and how we came to that, but I guess I'll have to respond in that respect. From our perspective, we didn't go below the required 3.5%. We did that on advice from finance. We worked together. We didn't want to put the burden, or more burden, on those who are working in poverty, those people who are going to food banks. We didn't want to do that by council tax, and that's been recognised across the country. Local authority leaders were on the news even yesterday talking about we can no longer put the burden on managing our budgets in relation to council tax. So in that respect, that was an approach that we were happy with. We had conversations, as Darren mentioned earlier, about that setting of the budget. There was differences, I accept that, and one was more to take out of reserves to go where we did down to the level of reserves, and others was not to put the burden for us on the population. There were higher elements where others wanted to put that burden on the population. We didn't want to do that. But I will say that those meetings were beneficial, they were helpful, and although there's differences, that's what politics is about. Yeah? We're not a coalition, as Darren has reminded me a number of times. No, we don't want to be a coalition, but we have to work together. We don't want, and we agreed in this, and Councillor Amos would agree, we don't want to be governed by the Welsh Government. We don't want to work in partnership with Rhondda Cynon Taff, and we don't want to go down the pan. So we've got to work together. So we'll agree to disagree on that issue, and I hope that based on the model we've created in getting through our budget, we can get through the next 12 months and work together and, I'll put my words carefully here, ensure that Welsh Audit Office understand how much joint work goes on and how much more we can work together to get to where we all want to be, where Merthyr Tydfil is still in place, still in position, giving an excellent service to the members of the community and replicating the booming environment we've got in the middle of the town centre and where we've got in our industry and work and jobs, etc. So, okay, that was a difference. We've gone past that now, we got through the budget. But I think it's very important that we ensure and reassure. I do feel that Welsh Audit Office have got a certain perception of us together that's not accurate. There's a lot of joint working goes on. You know, we proved that with the conversations about Fran funds. Many people work together. But it's vitally important that we keep on working together, and whatever our political differences, and whatever our differences otherwise are there, we realise at the end we need to be here to deliver the services more effectively for our community. Thank you.
Put it to vote, members. Thank you, members. That's carried. Item 7 has been deferred. So go on to the agenda. Item 8 to deal with any other urgent business or correspondence. I have none. Item 9 to receive communication from His Worship the Mayor. I have none. And thank you. Good night. Thank you very much.